Doing hard work out in the sun makes it kind of hard to eat. It's just a little too roasty toasty for digestion. So I'm going to share with you how I make one of my favorite hot day summer snacks. Packed with all the goodness that is needed to keep yourself fueled while doing a good hard day's work. Gonna want a mixing bowl, some jerky, peanut butter, some sort of nut or seed that you like, and some type of dried fruit. And I've just got some raisins, so I'm going to go with raisins. Though for this recipe, I do prefer cranberries. Hello, fellow homesteaders. I'm Nika, and I want to show you how to make some modern day pemmican. Pemmican was a food staple of the Native Americans. As well as when the fur trappers and traders came in, they also utilized this very hearty snack as well. So this is jerky that I had made from the goat that I had recently harvested. But you can use any jerky, whether that be deer, from the store, buffalo, elk, whatever kind of jerky you got. And we're going to want to pulverize this jerky. You can also use a knife or scissors to cut it up into little chunks, but I have found blending it up is just a really good way to get a nice, even consistency and texture, and it just helps the end product. But I'm going to take my jerky, rip it into smaller pieces, and fill my little blender cup. It is a little bit easier with scissors to make it smaller. And it is true, this jerky was a little tough, and that's why I'm turning it into pemmican. And I'm gonna blend this up until it's a pretty powdery, like jerky. Almost like that jerky dip stuff that you can get in the store. And this is about the texture that I like it to be. But you can always experiment with different chunkiness of the jerky to your personal preference. I'm going to add that to the bowl. Then we're going to add our dried fruit. And depending on the day, I'll use a knife to chunk it up into smaller pieces, or I'll just blend it up a little. And that's what I'm going to do today. And this is going to give the snack a slight sweetness. So depending on how sweet you like it, you may have to kind of play with the different ratios, because I don't really do any measuring. I just add it until the ancestors say that's good enough. And you can use whatever kind of dried fruit you want. Cherries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, whatever berry-iness you enjoy. We're just going to give this a little blend. It's kind of just a gob for right now. It makes it all sticky. But we're going to add that in with our jerky. You also need a spoon. Next is your seed or nut of choice. You can use almonds, cashews, peanuts. My favorite for pemmican is sunflower seeds. And I'm just going to add some up in there. And that looks good. And then I'm just going to kind of fluff those ingredients together. Now it's time to add the peanut butter. Tallow or lard is what is traditionally used as kind of the binding fat. But for me, it's just a little too greasy, and in a way, it doesn't make it any more or less flavorful, so to say. And that's why I referred to it as a modern pemmican, because instead of using a rendered fat, I'm going to use peanut butter. And you can use whatever kind of peanut butter, whether smooth or chunky. And chunky is kind of nice because you'll get a little bit of extra texture to it. And if you don't want to add a different type of nut, you got the peanut butter anyway. While I was doing a little research on pemmican, I actually found there was something called the Pemmican War. And this was a conflict between the Hudson Bay Company and the Northwest Company in British North America. This conflict was between 1812 and 1821. And this war was sparked by the establishment of the Red River Colony and the writings of the Pemmican Proclamation, which restricted the export of pemmican. And pemmican was very important for the folks in the fur trade. So in reality, it wasn't really about pemmican, it was about fur. But pemmican, like I said, played a vital role for those fur traders to be able to go out and about and do what they did. Pemmican was a very vital food source for them to do what they needed to do. And I'm sure there's much more convoluted issues within that war. But the conflict did end with the merging of the Hudson Bay Company and the Northwest Company. And I thought that was just very interesting that pemmican played a pretty important part in a war. And I just thought it was interesting and wanted to share. And when adding the peanut butter, you want just enough to make everything stick together. So I add it kind of slowly, mix it up, add a little more if needed. And sometimes with the mixing of the peanut butter, it is a little nicer to use a hand. So I'm gonna use my hands. And you'll definitely want to work that peanut butter into all the jerky bits until you get a nice mass that is stuck together nicely but isn't goopy like peanut butter. You want it to be a pretty solid mixture. And from this point, you can roll it up into little bite-sized snacks. And that's what I like to do, is to roll them up into little balls and put it into the fridge. You can also press and square the mixture, so you can cut it up into squares or little strips or kind of whatever shape you want to create out of the mixture. And there you have a very nutrient-dense snack to eat on those really hot days when it's hard to eat like full meals. And my favorite part about this little recipe is it's very versatile in what you can add to it. You can add protein powders, oats, other types of butters. Some folks even use coconut oil instead of lard or tallow. It definitely may seem to be a funky kind of fruit and jerky and peanut buttery snack, but I find it to be very delicious. And like I said, it's very versatile and can be made to suit your own tastes. And not only is it a snack for hot days, it's great for adventuring, like when you're going backpacking or camping or anything like that. And it also does make a pretty decent survival food. It has a good shelf life as long as it's kept in a cool, dry place. But I do prefer, since it is peanut butter, to keep it in the fridge. But I have left it unrefrigerated for probably about a month or so while we were eating it, and it never went bad. So I know for at least a month, this little recipe here is good for. Definitely using lard or tallow will increase that shelf life by a lot, due to the fact that lard and tallow are very good at helping preserve foods. That is one of the things about pemmican back in the day using lard and tallow, is it was very shelf stable and easily travelable. And so it was very widely used for quite a long time. And I feel that it is a very underrated and forgotten snack. So I'm here to remind you about the awesomeness of pemmican. High in nutrients and fats and just good stuff to keep you fueled for whatever you're up to. Happy snacking! Peace.